I've been interested in miniature furniture for the last 15 years and have bought odd pieces when I've seen them. I decided to do an exhibition approximately 4 years ago and have been planning for that length of time. I've been able to accumulate a collection of about 150, 160 pieces, and we will be talking about some of those today and explaining the reasons what makes it so interesting to me and other collectors. Generally, there is no hard and fast rule as to why they made miniature furniture. There are various reasons that we've come up with, and we're still learning because there are no written records that we've been able to trace. You start off with doll's house furniture, which is usually a scale of 1/12, and that is very, very interesting but very difficult to get early pieces. The next category would be for doll's furniture, which would be made for children to use and play with, generally under supervision, which is why a lot of it has survived in such good condition. One other reason for collection would be that adults collected miniature furniture in the early 18th century. This was brought over to us from Holland, where it was very, very collectible, and when William and Mary came over, they brought over their cabinet makers who started making miniature furniture, and it became very, very collectible by adults. And again, we'll show you a few pieces of this later. Generally, this has always been thought of as apprentice pieces, but I think the consensus is now that this wasn't made by apprentices. You have to remember that in the 18th century, you weren't allowed to have candles in workshops because of the fire risk. So therefore, at the end of the working day, the apprentice would have to go home or to his accommodation and wouldn't have the opportunity to make pieces in his own time. Also, we don't feel that the cabinet makers would have been happy with the apprentice using his materials to make something that the apprentice would take away. Possibly the apprentice would have made the piece for the cabinet maker's purpose, and that is probably where this term originated from. This is one of the first pieces that we come across in doll's house size, and this is 1/12. This is quite a rare German chess table from the 19th century. This was found for me by one of my people who knew that the exhibition was on, and we found two chess tables, this one and a slightly larger version, which would have been more miniature. This is very, very rare now to find miniature furniture of this scale, of this quality. Well, it's made up of pieces, so you'd have a piece of ivory which is carved and then all the legs are made. The pieces are then carved individually and then stuck onto the board so that they can't come off. Obviously, it'd be very difficult to play with these. Most of these are now in museums and in private collections, and we don't anticipate that many more will come onto the marketplace. The piece we're going to look at next is a very early 18th century black lacquer bureau. This was made probably about 1700, and it's probably one of the earliest pieces that would have been collected by adults as toys rather than for any other use. As you can see, when we look inside, this is fitted out as a traditional bookcase would have been, with drawers, pigeonholes and shelves. The bureau fold also comes over. This will probably be one of my favourite pieces that I own at the moment, and can probably go home with me after the exhibition's finished. The reason that this is so desirable is because of the colour, the quality of the craftsmanship. Everything about it just appeals to me as an antique dealer and as a collector. These are very, very rare now, and something like this I would not anticipate perhaps seeing again in my lifetime. If I was to see another one, it would be a real surprise. Some things in miniature furniture you see over and over again. For example, miniature chest of drawers turn up every week, but in terms of quality they vary enormously. When you come to something like a bureau bookcase, in 4 years we were able to find 3 that we were able to purchase for the exhibition. And I don't anticipate perhaps buying these again in my lifetime. One reason that cabinet makers made miniature furniture was that if you worked in the provinces, say like a town like Petworth, then the big house owners would call you to their houses to show you samples of what you could produce. Therefore you would get your horse and cart loaded up with your miniature furniture and take it to the house to show them the quality of your work. If you worked in a major city like London, Manchester, Birmingham, then it was quite probable that you as a private individual went to the cabinet maker's workshop, and therefore he could show you full-scale examples of what he was working on and could have chairs, etc. to show you. This changed towards the end of the 18th century when cabinet makers were given catalogues to show you, designed by people like Chippendale, Sheraton. You could then go to the house or the client and say, I can show you only one of these pieces, and therefore the need to making miniature furniture disappeared. One further reason that we've come across, which is quite unusual, is that we found a piece of miniature furniture that was made by a cabinet maker who lived in a town called Dawlish. This was made for the George III's Jubilee Parade, so that the cabinet maker could carry it through the parade to show what his trade was. And we therefore wonder whether or not other pieces were made for this reason. This piece is a later piece. This dates from about 1830. You can see from the quality of the workmanship that they've chosen very, very high quality veneers, nice line inlays, nice handles, and it's nicely proportioned. You've got a nice shaped apron, and this will be very, very collectible today, as it still has a modern use in the fact that a lot of these will be bought by men or women as presents for their partner, for jewellery boxes, or for use to keep your cufflinks, watches, myriad of objects in. So it's nice that you can actually buy an old piece of furniture in miniature and still use it today. As you can see from the construction, this has been made by a very, very good cabinet maker. The dovetailing on the side is exceptional work. The drawers are made in the traditional way that they would have been made on a full-scale example. So no effort has been spared in making something like this. Again, this is what appeals to me as a dealer, in that everything is made imperfectly. This is a very, very good example, but there are also lots of very poor examples out there, and they may well have been made by a gifted amateur or somebody just trying. The next 2 pieces tend to illustrate the fact that a lot of these items were made as toys for adults. We have 2 bureaus which we think were made in the 1730s, and from the design and the interiors we think these were made by the same firm, which would tend to indicate that they were made for resale. We have had another example in America with exactly the same interior, and it would indicate that there are probably quite a few out there in the country of a similar design. So it's always worth checking if you have one of these to see if it is made of the same design in the same period, and you've probably got one made by the same firm as these. As you can see, you've used a similar design with the 2 short drawers over one long drawer and one long drawer with an escutcheon. The 2 escutcheons match on this one, and again are of a very similar design on the next one. Same design to the feet, and the construction of the whole piece is the same with the line inlay decoration. What really sort of gave the clues to the same manufacturer was the fact that you have an interior of the same design on both of them. Both of them have wells, pigeonholes, drawers, same hinges. One's got a slightly earlier felt, this one is replaced. So I think, as you can see, what we believe to be identical pieces or made by the same manufacturer will probably tend to stand up. This is a very rare object and something that any collector who's trying to form a high quality collection would be pleased to own. The chest of drawers that we've shown range in prices from low hundreds up to many, many £1,000s, depending on the quality and the condition and the timber. If you look at the sideboard, you can see that they've chosen exceptionally fine quality timbers in flame mahogany. You've got a nice drawer, which again is made in the traditional way. The drawers are dummies with lift-up lids. So it's not quite true to scale in the sense that these originally would have been drawers. The doors open in the standard way, and then these have been put onto beautiful cast feet. The same rules would apply as you would do in a full-scale piece. So for example, a cheap mahogany chest of drawers would be worth anything from 300 to 500, going up to 800 to 1200 if it's got nice inlays, nice timber, up to £2,000 if it's nice proportions. Then you're going into serpentines, walnuts and oyster veneers, and they will range up to about £12,000. This is Richard Gardner talking about miniature furniture for Antiques TV.